A couple months ago, I took a book quiz to decide my next TBR. What do you look for in a work of fiction? Your ideal central character is... Which genre do you often gravitate towards? Was it my next TBR? No, but it sat on my TBR list for a while up until recently. The book that it chose for me was called The Finkler Question by Howard Jacobsen. This book is about three men navigating their questions on ultimately their Jewish identity, questions about culture, religion, but also their ties to loss and grief, because it ties all the three men together. While reading this book, honestly, I was going into it just wanting a good time, but I was also kind of testing the book quiz's ability to read my taste, to see like, was this book quiz worth it? Would I recommend it to other people? So this is kind of the result of that. I'll list the themes of what I look for in my taste, and then I want to give a quick review of the book and whether or not I would recommend this quiz based off this very specific experience of mine. My taste involves themes of grief, humor. Grief paired with humor is really, to me, that's what makes a very successful book. If you can laugh as much as you can cry in a story, I just feel very much in tune with the person that can do that well.
I hate it when people think that comedy is the obverse of the serious. For me, comedy and seriousness have always gone together. And at its best, I think, my work brings them so close together that you don't always know which is which. I love that feeling that when you laugh and you're not sure that you're actually not crying. I love that feeling of laughter and grief being together.
I think I did put that in a little too early, but it 110% shows in his writing, and I loved it. I like people who are introspective, so introspection is really heavy for me. I like people who live inside their heads a little too much. I like thrilling ideas. I used to think that I only liked thrillers, but I only like books that have thrilling things that can keep me going. Like, you have to have a little bit of shock. I get really bored if the book is not that thrilling. And then social commentary. Heavy on social commentary. It can be implicit or explicit, but I do lean towards explicit commentary. The Finkler Question. It has been a while since I've read a book so closely aligned with my taste, but at the same time, a book that challenged me enough to need some distance from it. So I was into it because it hit most of the things that I'm looking for, but it wasn't a quick read that I had to, inhale like within a couple of days. It was something that I had to take a little bit slow. It was also something that, because it's so tied to three men having a lot of conversations about what it means to be Jewish, what observers see about Jewish culture, as an outsider looking in, it felt a little bit like not education, but I was almost there I was there to observe, Like I mentioned, this book is about three men. Two of them were Jewish and had recently lost their partners. I only mention that to say one of them is the person that we basically have the perspective of. He's the main character that we go back to. He's an outside observer who was who in the beginning hadn't married and then also is not Jewish, so he's kind of on the outside looking in, giving a lot of his observations. At some moments, the observations were like, that's better, it's just like a thought in your head. As somebody who's an outsider looking in about questions related to being somebody who's Jewish, I kind of wish that from this book's perspective, like I could be an insider, because I think that I would just much more, of course, connect with the themes that are being brought up, whereas like I simply cannot. Being an observer who is not a part of the community, and looking at some of the thoughts that Julian Treslov had, it was like, I don't know, it was very interesting because Treslov was a very judgmental guy. He was incredibly introspective, and some of the observations he made just didn't feel like they were from a place of curiosity. Some of them felt a little bit too, some of them were just not from a place of goodness. It basically is what I'll say. They just did not feel like from a place of goodness. Some of them felt maybe from a place of superiority, But I mean, the author being Jewish, I never mentioned that this was also set in the UK. Why did I never mention that? But the author mentioned that he is a Jewish man living in the UK, and that's like such a small percentage of the UK. The Finkler question, which is what this named, is named after his friend Sam Finkler. Background on this is something that I just found out by watching a review of this. So Treslov has a bunch of observations about his friends and the Jewish community that they're a part of. And so he like initially starts saying, you know, making these observations non-directly in his head about like, oh, I didn't notice that they blah blah blah, or I didn't notice that blah 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 about Jewish people. I didn't know blah blah. And then it turns into him saying, oh, he's such a Finkler, a code for like, oh, he's so Jewish, or like, I really enjoy the Finkler sense of humor. I really admire the blah 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 Finkler like trait, and it is basically code for Jewish or Jew, like it's basically code for that. I was looking at somebody who had reviewed this like 12 years ago, and they had mentioned that basically the Jewish question was very derogatory phrase, mentioned a very derogatory phrase, so it was very clever of Howard Jacobsen to use the Finkler question instead of the Jewish question, because that is more derogatory and bigoted, whereas Finkler was a little bit lighter, play on words, and was also a connection to his close friend, and not just out of like, I'm making observation of somebody of a stranger that I don't know, of a community that I don't know. It's like of a person that you do know very intimately, of a community that you are tied to but not a part of. I just found that to be very interesting. I did grapple with it. I very much enjoyed this. I would recommend somebody to take this book quiz and to find out what your next TBR is going to be, because when you're looking for a book recommendation, sometimes you get them from people that will recommend what's in their taste and not specifically what's in yours. And a book quiz's job is to get the things that you like and formulate it into what aligns with it in a book. So I would recommend this quiz. If you want, you can take it down below in the description. Please give me a like or comment your next TBR. And wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever time of day it is, I hope you have an amazing, valuable morning, afternoon, or night, and you have some good reads.